Welcome everybody to the Knack II title screen.
Knack II,
That
Electric
looks so
Boogaloo.
uninspiring.
Well, sorry Tia, it's all we have.
So, sure, doesn't that opening give you such a great bout of character dripping from this game's very pores?
So yeah,
No.
since I don't have a pro, I'll just enable the 30 frames per second mode for a more stable run.
Really? Seriously? This game cannot run 60 frames per second properly?
On the base console, it can, no, well, it can, you can uncap the frame rate if you want. However, if you want a consistent one, you'll have to play it on the pro.
Really? On the same system that could run Uncharted 4 pretty much fine.
Well, but Uncharted 4's single-player campaign wasn't 30 frames per second. It was the
No,
multiplayer that
no.
was in 60 frames.
Glad we're finally out of the
Well, my
woods.
point still, the multiplayer still has graphics of that fidelity, like, which are way higher than this, and on both versions of the system, it could run 60 frames per second. Like,
Part of it.
I'm sorry, there's no excuse that this game with this level of graphics can't run in 60 frames per second. Like, I'm pretty sure I've seen other games with
What they
better
should have
graphics
done,
on the PS4 run at 60 frames per second.
they should have done something like what Neos did, where you have a cinematic mode, but you also have a performance mode that lowers the resolution to 720p, but the trade-off is that you get 60 frames per second.
Yeah, true. I never got why they never give an option to, lower resolution as opposed to frame rate. Like,
Those graphics, Jova. Everyone wants to prioritize graphics these days.
Okay, then honest question. Was there really any advantages with this game being on the PS4 aside from it being able to run correctly? Like, what, did this game actually look better on the PlayStation 4 Pro?
It does look a
I'm
bit.
guessing not.
Well, yeah, obviously, if considering Mark Cerny made the bloody thing, obviously he would know how to use it, I guess.
Well, I know, but I mean, for all we know, he wasn't the one behind optimizing it for such. But I mean, I have not really heard of any significant improvements for this game on the Pro aside from it being able to sustain a frame rate.
It's
like,
not. It's
okay,
negligible because the game runs just fine on both platforms. Like, and quite honestly, it's not like the combat. It's not like this is a Platinum Games game or anything like that. Like the combat doesn't really demand a 60 FPS. The combat is very boring and unimpressive anyway. So honestly, having a 30 FPS to me honestly works just fine.
Oh, there you go. That's the showing mechanic.
Well, don't sell it short. In cases like this, the higher frame rate would at least help Knack move quicker and you could get some stuff over with. Trust me, in games like this, 60 frames per second can go a ways, which is why people desperately want a 60 frames per second version of Sonic Unleashed.
Well, we kind of already had that with the Unleashed project, but I see what you mean.
The point being, Shiroi, what do you think of these graphics, honest question?
They're pretty bland, I guess. I mean, I already
Yeah.
said this, but
They're trying to
Yeah.
replicate the Crash Bandicoot Jack and Daxter look.
Yeah.
But
This game had the poor irony that Japan Studio made this before knowing that Crash was making a comeback the exact same year.
Yeah.
Careful in there.
It's almost like how Bubsy 3D came out when they thought, oh, we're going to be the first ones to make a cartoony 3D platformer before they knew that Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot were going to be a thing. It's like being that one person who thinks, hey, it may be a bit rough around the edges, but at least on the first doing it to that sign, and then suddenly some hotshot comes out saying, yeah, I'm actually going to be the first who does it.
yeah,
One
ba-
up you.
yeah, basically I can bring back my parts back to me. Again, why the hell wasn't this in the first game is anybody's guess.
Not
Anyway,
just that, it was, but in a cutscene. In
Well,
cutscenes mostly, not a gameplay feature.
Yeah, but
Oh.
that's the point. It should have been a gameplay feature from the very beginning, and it boggles my mind that nobody thought of that.
Also, the sad thing, even though, wait, so Pedro, up to this point, have you been playing in, the uncapped mode, I guess?
No. I did this playthrough. I deleted the game off my console because I don't want to play it anymore because it's fucking boring.
Oh, no, I get that. What I mean is, it's in this part where you show us, you switching over to 30 frames per second mode. So, was, the whole first part, you doing this in
No.
uncapped mode?
I played this entire game in 30 FPS.
Okay. I was just wondering because it's in this part where we see you change it to 30 FPS.
I checked.
So...
I checked like I always do whenever a new game comes out. I checked John's analysis at Digital Foundry because he always gives out some good recommendations of what's the preferred way to go about. And he said, and the basic gist of it is that while you can uncap the frame rate even on the base PS4, it's quite inconsistent. So if you want stability above all else, you should cap the frame rate at 30 on the base PS4.
Sad thing is that from what I've seen, this game can still have lag even when you're on the 30 frames per second mode. Although, to be fair, that's mainly during cutscenes. Though then I just ask, really during cutscenes?
Fuck.
What? Oh, right, that.
They give me so little time with that door. Yeah.
Yes, these puzzles are quite the endurance round, aren't they?
There. Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, going back to that plot hole, hey Ryder, that thing you wanted to show us was beyond all this stuff that you need Knack to do.
Not just that, again, first of all, I thought it was Lucas that needed to show some Ryder, because the dialogue at the beginning suggested that it was Ryder asking Lucas, oh, did you brought me here just to show me this? So I honestly don't know who's dragging who into whose adventure.
Not that it's going
whoever's
to matter in the grand
dragging
scheme
who.
of things, I assure you.
Not only that, this is supposed to be your first major lore dumping. In
Oh,
a
look,
sense
and they
that-
teleported in there.
How?
How did they get past us? You know what's sad here, though? It's like, well, okay, if Lucas was... Thank you, game. We totally needed that hint.
Well, go ahead, Joa.
Okay, yeah, I mean, as you can see here, Shiroi, clearly we are way too dumb to realize that we need to move the block right next to the taller block, so the game is so wonderfully intuitive to show us.
I'm still gonna check something here, though.
Might there be actually secrets in this game that are worth finding?
There you
Aside
go.
from those,
There you go. There was a box that I forgot.
Hey, that box reminds me of the blue lit box from Shadow of the Colossus, which reminds me of the blue lit box from Last Guardian.
the barrels.
Those blue things are experience points. The more experience points you
Yeah,
get,
again,
the more you
just
level
like
up.
you mentioned-
The more levels you
just like
have,
mentioned.
the more skills you can get in the skill tree. Go ahead, too.
Just like I mentioned, the way this game handles the experience point is just wrong on all reason. Give me experience points after defeating enemies, or give
Well,
me
actually, you
more
do
if
get
I
for after defeating enemies, too.
Well, but they
The-
give you an abysmal amount of them. The most that you get are from the actual boxes and not from combat.
True.
Not just that, similar to what God of War implemented, reward me if I manage to defeat enemies in more creative, complex ways. Basically, reward more effort from the player. But no, instead you get the same amount that is abysmal, and instead you have to rely on the boxes just to get dead enough experience to unlock just a single point in the skill tree. It's not a problem of the existence of a skill tree in general, but how it's actually handled.
Pedro, that thing that you broke, it literally broke before you even punched it.
Hitboxes, what are those?
Yeah.
Also, they literally just had lined diagrams on screen.
Shiroi, that's because you're dumb and you can't possibly do a very simple block puzzle, don't you know?
Let me remind you, this was...
I'd hardly call it a puzzle, honestly.
Let me remind you guys, this was supposed to be an improvement over the original. While there are some improvements, there are some things that are even worse, because I hate to say it, the first game didn't treat you this dumbly. I mean,
But
it
you
was
see,
dumb-
Jova, this game is made for casual players and kids.
Wasn't that what the first Knack game was supposed to be
I'm sure
for?
you-
Yes, and this one is as well.
By this.
Oh god.
Again, the same argument with Rise of Lyric. Even kids who get bored of the repetitive button mashing combat, the incredibly boring story, the incredibly bland world design.
Hell,
The
you know,
cookie
at least
cutter music.
Rise of Lyric had retired Jack and Daxter animators, so the game at least animated pretty well with the character models and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the story, I will still hold that was actually one of the better Sonic stories we've had. Like, I'd say it was legit good and had its fair share of good humor.
I don't
Just
go.
a shame. More than that, Jove, I could see potential just squandered
It-
because
well, that's-
of the Russian nature.
Well, too, that's like
Well,
all
yeah.
of Sonic's stories in general. But the point
True, No, but this one in particular. Oh, hold on. I think we're about to get.
Actually, no, I don't think
Not
so.
really. Just a tower.
Well, that's the thing. I don't. My problem with Rise of Lyric story, again, it has some good character moments here and there, but the story is just a whole lot of nothing. Especially especially the end where we had that speech from Sonic. They're not my weakness. They're my strength. Yeah, that would have worked fine if you actually earned this. Because, as Joe pointed out in our playthrough of Rise of Lyric, what happened to the whole Sonic starts off as a jerk, but, you know, slowly warms up to his new companions thing?
Not only that, the major contribution that the story gives you is just the device that Eggman got to how to control robots. That is literally it.
But yeah.
But Jeff was right, yeah, the animations in Rise of Lyric... Oh, actually, cutscene, hold on.
Oh.
Can't be.
What?
Can't be what, Uncle?
What?
If that's what I think
His uncle, right?
it could be a significant archaeological find.
Yeah, there we go.
You
Ryder's the
gonna
one who
tell us
brought
what
him
this
here.
is?
Maybe I can help with that. You boys sit tight.
Well, that's what you usually do when you don't teleport.
You know, okay, so there we go. It was Ryder who brought them here, but apparently now it's changed them. I want to show you something to now. This could be a great archaeological find. Also,
Sure,
you know what'd be sad? It would make even less sense if Lucas were the one who brought us here.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Once again, the word establishment that just doesn't work in the end. So at the end of the day, you don't know where people are and what their intentions are.
To go back to what
Alright.
Jova was saying.
I don't know how vast this world is supposed to be. Give me a map or something. Not I mean an in-game map, but something similar to those things in Lord of the Rings, like one of those openings that just details you the map and say, "Oh, humans are here, but goblins are invading all over the."
Yeah, that's a funny story. Thanks to you. Like that's another thing, everybody. Knack II, and by extension the first game as well. But this one in particular is where it's most prevalent. Knack II has quite possibly the worst world building in the history of video games, to the point where let's just say if Ter was the one playing this, he probably would rage quit.
Let me put it like this. When it comes to Sonic, while it does have some of its lore-building blunders, Sonic does at least, with each game it's in, does establish a world. Like, you know, Sonic Colors has an entire amusement park of Eggman that's established well. Sonic Generations is a nice brisking over the history of Sonic. Heck, even Sonic Forces does,
To be fair,
effort in actually bringing back the worlds,
the
too.
world establishing in the Sonic games is there. What it lacks is a more strict continuity between elements that are established between each game.
Whereas with
Ni no Kuni 2, this ain't.
Whereas with Knack II, okay, I'm gonna start this out by saying in Knack II, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but we're going to get established not only a new goblin race, but another human race who were conveniently not mentioned. And this isn't like Pokemon where you can say, oh, different race. No. This is like, per se, wow, these guys could have actually helped.
Things. Oh, they were just there.
But we're going to finally learn what the Crystal Wars are about. You know, that thing that we never got explained in the first game.
Fine by me, but the problem is that it's not enough and you still don't explain enough, if I have to be honest.
To go back, well then again, actually no, never mind. I'll take that back. Like, to be fair, I guess comparing it to say like what Pokemon, like Jova was doing, and me with Ni no Kuni 2, it's a bit too unfair because this is a platformer, not a JRPG. So obviously JRPGs would be a lot. It would be a lot easier to do it in a JRPG than a platformer.
Okay, I want to do the best comparison with another Sony platformer, technically it's also a shooter. Well, no,
I think the Jack games are better in that regard.
Actually, no, let's go for Ratchet & Clank, because Jak and Daxter is a particular way of establishing its setting, especially between the transition between each games. Ratchet & Clank is more consistent, in a sense that you get a galaxy with establishment of some of which return once in a while. But it also does a similar thing to Sonic in a sense that the setting is almost different from each game in a sense that you don't get to see the same identical planets all the time. You get some returning ones here and there, but most of the time you'll be stranding in new ones, giving an idea how big this galaxy is. Actually, but at the same time you don't feel as if you're lost, because first of all it's an actual galaxy, and second, characters refer events and planets that they visited in previous games, so you get more idea of how to cross-reference places and where characters have been, to give them more an idea of where things are and when things happened. In this game, I know we're just at the second game on this, but I'm completely lost, guys. I still have no idea how much the human race is contained.
Hold on, let me explain something here.
Sorry.
One of the big problems with this particular section is, okay, this looks like a 2.5D section. Here's the problem. Even though the camera is on a 2D perspective, the controls are still in full 3D, meaning I can literally, you know, walk towards the camera and fall. As a result, this platforming session can be a bit iffy if you're not aware that the controls are still in 3D. You'd think it would be like in a Sonic game where they lock you into a 2D plane for the sake of, you know, preventing these issues, but hey, go ahead.
Well, Crash did
I
this
assume that you
too.
can't
But
use
Pedro-
the D-pad.
But Pedro, don't you see? It's the perfect replacement for Crash Bandicoot, just like in the old days.
Yeah, that's the thing, Shiro. Shiro just said Crash Bandicoot did this too. But that's the thing, Shiro. Let's not pretend that every single thing Crash Bandicoot did was good. You know?
I know,
assume-
there's a reason that was changed in the Insane Trilogy.
I assume, Pedro, that you cannot use properly the D-pad for these sequences.
No. You have to use the analog stick.
Wait, you
bummer.
can't use the D-pad? What?
Well,
No,
to be
well,
fair,
I
Jova,
should've-
Super Mario Odyssey doesn't let you use the D-pad for 2D sections either.
I should have seen this coming because
Well-
the up of the D-pad is used for the hints. So
Okay. Here's the thing. With Mario games, it makes sense because, like, well, Mario games, the directional buttons are often used for, like, the camera. But in a game like this, a Sony platform,
Not in Odyssey, though. But yeah, sure. The D-pad is not
Right.
used at all in Odyssey.
Oh, well, again, still, that's a Mario game remake. Well, I never expect them to allow you to use the D-pad. The thing, though, is like, well, what reason is there to not let you use the directional buttons in this platformer? And you know what? Fine. Fine. I'll even go after Mario for that, but I still find it baffling here. Like, you know, at least in most Mario games up until Odyssey, the directional buttons were used for something else. And like Tio said, yeah, sure, the directional up button is used for hints, but shouldn't there be an easy way to maybe just reroute that to a different button on the controller? Because
Yeah, you could use R1
little-
or actually R1 is already used. L1? I don't think L1 is used for
the
anything.
press.
L1 is for the
does
parry.
Pressing,
Yeah.
Does pressing the touchpad do anything?
No, I don't think so.
So you could have used
Yeah.
that.
Like, seriously, most games I know on
Sony,
the
you
PS4
bother
use
to
the
remove
touchpad.
the select button in favor of that social media thing. Might as well use it for something.
I don't know, Teo. I kind of like the touchpad. A lot of games do good uses of it.
No, he's talking about the
True.
new options button.
Not
that,
just
you know,
that. It's not just having a button or another. It's how you use it.
It's actually it's two things. It's both a touchpad that works like a like a laptop mouse, but it also has two buttons underneath it, which it's even how they use it for the PS2 classics. The right side of the touchpad is the start button, and the left side of the touchpad is the select button. So honestly, it works just peachy. It's actually It's actually one. If you actually count the number of buttons, technically the DualShock 4 has an extra button compared to the
Here we
previous
go.
ones. So actually, it's technically better.
You know, it's funny because, you know, part of the reason that some people don't complain as much as they do when Crash did that section was because the directional
Well,
buttons
that game,
were a lifesaver.
those games were made back in the 90s. You know where? Okay, well, the
I'm
thing is,
also talking about with the Insane Trilogy as well, comparison's sake. It's like, well, basically, directional buttons were a lifesaver for that kind of stuff.
Feel the epicness.
So, Shiroi, are you excited by this round of QuickTime events?
cinematic
That's
action.
what I described
Jova,
it.
Jova,
I would
Jova.
argue.
It's the return of cinematic action from 13.2.
I would argue that I forgot what they're called. Basically, the QTEs in 13.2 were actually better. than
Cinematic
these,
action, yeah.
Cinematic actions, yeah.
And we did all that just to raise a statue.
Not just that, Naka got incredibly lucky because the statue, being old, could have just broke over or bent.
So let me get this straight.
Alright, time for some lore, I guess.
Marius.
Right.
He's known as a great
Haha, Mario. So get it? Just like Mario.
fierce.
Ha.
Fierce enough to beat the high
I mean, it looks like Conan the Barbarian.
What?
Cool
What's
guys,
this?
huh?
The adventure.
Hi,
High
goblins.
are a
What are
different
this
bunch
you
from
speak of?
Gundahar and his kind.
How come I've never heard of him?
I guess they
Never
don't
mind.
teach
This game
that
wishes
side
it
of
could
the
be as
story
as
Of
awesome,
course.
as awesomely, as gloriously manly as Conan the Adventurer.
Guys, the High Goblins haven't been
I
seen since the
guess.
wars. I'm
There's
sure
more
we'll
amazing
never
ahead.
hear from them.
Well, I wouldn't
Wait,
To go back
that's it?
to go back to what Jova was saying earlier, that's just yeah. It's interesting. Chapter 2 for a forgotten
Doesn't
place.
place.
Can't wait to tell my archaeologist.
Yes, my archaeologist friends. Yes, my
Okay.
my archaeologist friends that will never show up in the game and never be mentioned after this.
So let me get
Anyway,
this straight. Wait, hold on. I have to address this. So let me get this straight, Uncle Ryder. You endangered your nephew and your best friend's greatest creation.
The only
Knack,
weapon you
to
have
show
against the
them-
goblin.
Yeah, to Knack. The only weapon to use against the goblins to show them a surprise, which turned out to be a life-endangering expedition to see an archaeological find that even you apparently did not know was even there for sure, because what you just said, they said it couldn't be found, implied that it was kind of a gamble.
man,
What?
Osamu Tezuka's latest anime is weird.
Wow. Okay, Pedro, back to you.
It's interesting you mentioned the Rise of Lyric earlier, Jova. Imagine it wouldn't be so much more fitting, and that it would be a victimless crime if Big Red Button was hired to do these games.
Yeah,
Heck,
well,
the animations
even
would have been better.
not just that. At least that would have freed the Japan studio to do something else. At least.
Not just
Well,
that.
Tio, apparently Japan Studio really wanted to do this game.
It's the sad part. That's the sad part, Jova. You were talking about the animations earlier. That's how like hold on, actually a cutscene now. Oh, never mind.
No,
How sad is it that Rise of Lyric has the best in-game character animations in the entire series? Like they're so rubbery and so fluid. Whereas, don't get me wrong, the animations in the Agog engine are fine, but they can be a bit stiff sometimes, and the cinematography is
Yeah.
not the best.
To me, ironically, I think the best use of the Hedgehog engine for, animations was actually the modified versions of it in Colors. Yeah, Colors does not have as much fidelity, but Sonic actually has a lot more animation use there than he does in Generations.
Well, Generations, of course, that's the one where the characters are just standing there talking. So,
Punch, kick, swift.
It's all in your mind.
You know,
the problem is
I'm
that
gonna
like
say it.
and
One
even
thing
and it
yes,
got really
Rick?
shown in the Sonic Forces cutscenes where we have that final war in the climax, and the overall cinematography and the overall animations are quite subpar and don't really do a good enough job conveying
They try to be
the
this
intensity.
epic, gigantic thing. But,
It's they need to either come. I mean, they just came up with an Agog engine too. Maybe they hire some new animators who can maybe try to get some more out of the new engine. I guess.
You know
But-
what I'd have liked? If they'd at least have kept the animators from Big Red Button on board. Like, actually, have we even heard from Big Red Button lately?
I think they're like restructured as a mobile company, like most companies do.
It's similar to Superbot after PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, Joe. I think they just did that new company that failed on the first part and now never heard of again.
It's this growing trend in video games. Like same thing happened with Mistwalker, Sakaguchi's company, because of the absolute horrid failure that Blue Dragon was as a cross-media project, and Lost Odyssey didn't really sell enough to really make up for that. Last Story even less. So yeah, Mistwalker now is a mobile developer, sadly.
You know what's ironic? I hear a lot of people say that Sakaguchi was not really that invested in Blue Dragon compared to how he was Lost Odyssey. So that makes me ask, why
That's
the
how
heck was
well he
Lost...
said in the interviews that he put all of himself into it.
Wow,
so-
that could be PR talk. Either way, though, so I have this question, though. If that's the case, then why the heck was Lost Odyssey not the one that, was given the cross-media stuff? Because...
Well,
when I heard
Lost Odyssey was a much more serious one-time project. It wasn't meant to be like something made for sequels and spin-offs. It was just meant to be like a straight-up JRPG that's self-contained and everything.
Wait,
There you go. Now
so
it's
Lucas
Lucas who's
was the
doing it.
one.
Yeah,
Huh.
dude. What the fuck? Also,
Okay.
Skulls.
It's a battlefield.
Wait,
Lucas.
so how do you know about this,
2 billion
Lucas?
years ago.
I'm with your uncle on this.
Wikipedia.
Oh, you two, come on. They probably haven't moved since that rock war.
How do you know that?
Whatever.
Not just that, Lucas, that's a bit disrespecting.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah,
You wanted
I
to
mean, it
show
was
us a
a war.
battlefield based around a crystal war, which you yourself
He's
admit
right.
to barely knowing
These
about.
things are dead as doornails.
At least doornails were once
Sure they
Not just
are.
that, Knack, you're just calling it. Come on, it's
Sure.
painfully obvious.
I guess.
I don't like it when any
There
show
we
or
go.
game or whatever does that.
So let me get this straight, Ryder. When we're doing an archaeological find, it's perfectly fine, but oh no, now it's
Still
dangerous.
cool, but Knack.
Still cool, but wow.
So,
Really?
robo-zombies.
So, and Lucas's reaction is just, oh wow, still cool, but Knack. It's like,
I have
hey.
to say that, considering how great of a creation he's supposed to be, outside of his strength, he's kind of useless from what I've seen.
He is.
Because you spend most of your time switching to Little Knack. I mean, if
Where he
Knack's
doesn't,
only-
where he also doesn't speak, mind you. He doesn't say a word when he's
I think, well, Shiroi, I think Donkey is the one who put it best. Look at his design. When you look at Mario and Sonic, their designs are so simple and iconic. To the point where even if a toddler drew them, you would still know who they are. Can you imagine a toddler trying to draw this thing?
But I mean, is Little Knack used for anything useful?
No,
He
all he
usually
does is
squeezes
fight
them
robots.
those puzzles thing.
well, he
yeah.
well, hey, he can squeeze them through tight spaces. That's cool, I
Yeah, I mean,
guess.
do they do anything interesting with
Nope.
that?
Shiroi,
when you get
Shiroi,
down
there
to
is
I
no...
don't really see the apparent appeal of Big Knack, essentially.
That's the thing,
Well,
Shiroi. This game, like Dark Lord John once said, like the game doesn't really. The game has this cool concept for a protagonist, but does nothing with it.
You
And
might
you-
as well just stay as Little Knack for 90% of the time.
You know what's sad, Shiroi?
Well,
It's
actually,
really
Shiroi,
sad.
that way beating the enemies will take longer. So no.
Also, true.
Yeah,
You know
but
what's
I mean,
sad?
you're switching
Yeah, I
to him
do.
so much because Knack can't walk through most spaces, it seems.
Yeah, hey, it's like I said. Hey, we can finally actually change
That
that.
model just clipped.
It's just, oh my god.
One of those corpses model was having the T-pose and then immediately get down to the prone position.
Polished to be the atonement of the series, everyone.
Not only that, though, I honestly think there could have been an easy way to just fix the personality, quote unquote, the lack of personality of Knack. Making mute through all of its phases, having communicated only with smirks and his actions.
So Sonic.
That's
Well,
honestly what I thought
also
he
like
was gonna
that,
be.
but this is a thing that the Sonic aside has been proven time and time again. But even in the modern day and age for video games, it just works no matter what you do. Doom 2016 is the paragon of this, with the Doomering not saying a single word, but being still one of the funniest character to play as, even if it doesn't have a super Shakespearean kind of like deep plot.
Hell. Let's look at an even more recent example. The trailer for Ridley for Smash Bros. Ultimate. Like, seriously, people are still retweeting his smirk and the cap twirl.
The hat
Like,
twirl.
I mean, heck, Subspace Emissary,
Oh,
for as
geez.
many problems as it has, people
There you go,
still
Shiroi, a
praise
Crash
it
Bandicoot
for
section.
demanding to do that.
Can you feel the urgency of having to run away? Oh
I
my,
just
oh my
wanna
god,
be
guys!
playing Crash Bandicoot right now.
I'm finishing recording Beyond Good and Evil these days, and you get an exact chase sequence like this with people shooting behind you. But it's like night and day
get that rock?
because
Yeah.
people shoot
Hold
at
on,
you
hold on,
much
Teo.
faster.
Look, Teo. Look how good I am at Knack 2.
This is like that scene in Resident Evil 4, only in reverse. It's you pushing the block.
Yeah. There you go.
That should do it.
Mash the square button to win. Also, I can't
Oh,
jump in here. There's an
You
invisible wall.
literally just saw the boulder block the path.
See, there you go. Even though I could jump in that other taller rock, clearly, I couldn't because there was an invisible wall blocking me.
Invisible walls
Goody.
everywhere. Yeah.
Anyway, Shuri, going back to your, the bit you were saying about how you have to swap between neck sizes. Hey, it's like I said. Hey, we finally got a feature people were asking for, except they had to ruin it like that. Like, oh yeah, sure, you can swap between neck, but there's still gonna be a lot of these sections where you still need to swap because there's not
Also,
really
is
much
that
point.
supposed to be water? Back
No, it's
there?
mud, I
No,
think.
mod.
Okay.
Honestly, I can't tell
looks
if that is
bad
mud.
either way.
But Shiro, it's like those early levels of Crash 2 where you get those mods pools that you have to traverse.
I'd say even they looked better.
So, Shiroi,
I never liked those to begin with.
Yeah.
Shiroi, about your point about neck size, you know what's sad? You may not have gotten to see all of it because, you know, Dark Joe didn't show all of it, but one of the best things of the original Knack was, again, how big you could get. And from what I see, Knack's largest size in the first game is not in this game because, let's be quite honest, the most unique thing about Knack was how big he could get and how many particles he could render. Essentially why some people nicknamed Knack 1 the PS4 Ultra Demo. Because, let's be quite honest, that's what Knack 1 was kind of meant to be.
Well, they kind of made that point in the review.
And look, I have nothing against a game being a glorified tech demo because that's essentially what Crash
Well,
1
if
was.
it's sold for $60, Jova, that's gonna be a problem.
Okay,
Well, Catherine was technically a tech demo, and that's a fantastic game.
exactly. Here's my...
Catherine wasn't a tech
Yeah.
demo.
But back in the PS3 days, it kind of was.
Back around to the time, it was kind of a tech demo for the early development of Persona 5.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah,
I guess I guess the right way to put that. Well, block me into a 2D perspective, you fucking morons. But anyway, I think
the place where you need invisible walls. You know?
Wow, look at this. Look at this. You have to stay pressed against the wall just to make sure you don't accidentally die.
Hug that wall damage.
it's. I think the best way to put it, Shiro, is that like it started out like as like they were practicing for Persona 5, then they came up with the concept for Catherine, and they shifted development to that new IP.
Well, not even
But
just
yeah,
that.
Persona 5 got delayed big time as well, so...
Well, that's just
And look,
because
look.
Ashino loves to take his time. That like he's a perfectionist.
And we needed to milk more out of Persona 4 and 3 anyway.
Oh, they're
Anyway.
doing that now.
Yeah, we're still doing it.
But guys, what about that crossover between Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei?
I
Wasn't that
don't
great?
want to talk about
Well, look-
that, not now, Joe.
Look at it this way too. Now Ashino is going to the roots of the genre now. So that should be interesting.
Well, very funny, told you already, but might as well make it clear here. I have much more respect to Persona 5 than I have to Persona 3 and 4 combined, so take it from what you will.
Anyway, going back to what I was saying earlier, I mean, look, just because I call something a tech demo doesn't even mean I think it's bad, because like I said, Crash Bandicoot 1 was a tech demo. Here's the difference. Crash Bandicoot 1 was a fun as all heck tech demo, because, hey, just because something's a tech demo, if you're planning to release it as a game, make sure it's still meant to be a game. Like, look, let me put it like this.
I mean, PT is a literal demo, and it's still, you know...
Yeah,
managed
PT is a
to be fun.
demo, and yet it's regarded as one of the best horror games ever made.
And you know what? I'm going to compare this negatively to Bubsy 3D. Now let me say this. I'm not saying that
Good.
Bubsy 3D is a better game. But Bubsy 3D as a game felt like it had more passion and more effort put into it than this game did. Like, yeah, I know that's not saying much considering how it's definitely the worst game, but think about it. The people who did Bubsy 3D, you could tell they were trying. And you know what? We later got to see proof of that because they would go on to do better things. Whereas Japan studios seem to be on this downward trend.
To be fair,
If this game is something to go by.
To be fair, Jova, are we even sure if the people who work on Bubsy 3D are even
we are.
still at Ben?
Yeah, we are. We've actually established this several
Let me
times.
check mine as well. Besides, regardless of that, Pedro, they still developed the Siphon Filter games, and those were immediately after Bubsy 3D, basically.
Yeah, those were better too.
I guess.
My point being is like, well, this game was, again, supposed to be better than the first Knack, and yet this is like there's even less effort put into it. But oh boy, look, and don't worry on it. I will share that interview with Japan Studio. I'm just waiting until Shiroi's gotten to see all the quote-unquote improvements of this game, because there's a lot addressed.
So yeah, I can't go back. Even though there are no enemies around, the game will not move on.
Hello?
Oh, there we go.
What
I
did you
had
say?
to go back
What?
to there for the cutscene to trigger for some
Trigger
reason.
the cutscene, yeah.
Game,
You know,
you are...
most games would kind of just trigger the cutscene anyway, but sure.
Wow.
Maybe flip a switch.
That is quite possibly the very definition of scripted. You have to follow the script.
It just came to life.
Most peculiar.
Whatever.
Let's call the doctor once we get.
All right.
Oh, no, Knack, don't bring any of those useful relics around. It's not like we have, like, a dispenser in one of our planes that we can keep them in the container. Oh, wait, no, we literally had those inside the plane that we brought with us. Why are we leaving them behind?
All right, Miss Shiroi. Now sit down. Pay attention because it's.
I'm already sitting down, and I'm trying to pay attention, but it's hard.
Well, try harder because now it's backstory time.
Alright?
Okay. Basically, in order to reinforce my confusion on how much many humans are out
The
there,
Norcliffe
we're going to introduce
Monastery.
a new community of humans.
Yep.
Superhumans.
Hi,
Laura,
Laura Bailey.
I hope that paycheck that you got was pretty big.
The monks have a few ideas.
Oh, guess what, guys? We got another bout of cyber monks.
Don't listen to him. We're fine.
No, by all means, we don't want to establish any characters with Knack.
Lucas, are you sure you're okay? Charlotte worries.
We're fine.
Well, yeah,
Whoa.
someone in this relationship needs to be the one that actually
Also,
worries.
I just want to point out...
Oh, there we go too. The doctor still has back pain. That's gonna mean anything, but
props for continuity, I guess. Well, whatever, I'll mention what I was mentioning later.
Oh, hey, it's Xanatos. I mean, Xander.
all right. Shiroi, meet Xander and Ava.
And like I said,
So much for coming.
Xander is kind of a poor man's Xanatos.
And,
Not just that,
and Ava
Shiroi.
here is voiced by Jennifer Hale. So
Not for giving anything away, Shiri, but one of the people in this very room is actually the villain of the game. Guess who?
As you already know.
Gee, it's so difficult.
Ahem. Guys, as you already
You already know.
Wow, you are just ticking up the sin count. with
As
your
you
story writing,
know.
aren't you, Gabe?
Mark.
I
Mark.
forgot.
Mark, screenwriting 101. Never start a line of dialogue with the words "as you know."
Because we already know.
But that's the big story. This is stuff what?
Alright, here's a Crystal Wars. They would never explain the first game, but I guess we have to explain them now.
So basically, goblins were actually civilized, at least the high goblins.
Which is weird because the Crystal Wars in the first game were used as an excuse for humans totally being the good guy.
Question, why can't we get a game about this instead? Like,
It sounds
call
like
it
a more
Knack
interesting
Origins.
concept.
That'd probably be too interesting of an idea from what I've seen so far.
Oh, and Yorick. He's the big bad goblin who we never meet.
Yeah, we'll never. Yeah, even though Uruk is supposedly this important goblin, we never actually see him do anything. We just get
Hey,
told
guys.
about what he did.
Guys, wouldn't Sonic Adventure have been so great if we actually never faced off against Perfect Chaos and we were just told about him? I'm sure that would have made the game so much better. Screw you. Like,
The station square would have flooded and everyone would have died.
and
You know, the artwork in this cutscene, it makes it look like one of those generic mobile games.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I was thinking it's actually. It looks a bit like Clash Royale in some shots and Fortnite and some other ones.
We just need that guy screaming for the icon, and we're done.
Yes, he led his people to victory. Then he started a new kingdom called Evermore, so he could unite the entire. Oh wait.
Well, again, it looks more like Conan the Barbarian, so maybe it was in the Iborian age.
All right, Shiroi. As you can probably guess, Ava's entire purpose is to exposit on you. She's not a natural character. She's just here to spout exposition and backstory.
Oh, but Pedro, what about her other special purpose in this game that you love oh so very much?
I'll get to it.
So basically, the goal of the monks is to stop these supposed ancient weapons, but ooh, looks like the monks actually found something.
The monks have their own knacks.
Which means Knack is not really that unique anymore.
So basically, okay, can you hear that, guys? It's the sound of Knack getting less and less special as the game goes on.
Check out your cousins
Let's see, these totally won't end up being dark evil versions of you, Knack.
Not just that, they're bland, they're just, generic factory robots.
Also, is Knack gonna develop an inferiority complex?
Oh,
No.
yes, you're right. Well, okay, yes, he does. But it's
He does?
incredibly short.
Ava will take
It-
Oh, well, never mind. I think I know what you mean.
Yep.
So yeah, they can only journey to see the goblins, but it's a bit too late, it's already nighttime. So what we're gonna do during the nighttime? We're gonna have ourselves a tournament where Knack gets to beat the crap out of the monks. Wait, what?
You may think that this is incredibly messed up, Shiroi, and it is. Like, there's
Oh,
absolutely
like, even Laura
no
Bailey is
awareness.
sitting there in the audience cheering. What the fuck?
Which reminds me, like what I was saying before. The sad thing is that this game was developed right in the middle of that voice actor strike of which Laura Bailey also took place in. So basically,
Yeah.
Why was she in
keep,
then?
hold on, keep this in context, guys. She lost her role as Lucina and Chun-Li, but she kept this. How sad.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Like, jeez.
Well, guys, we'll see plenty more in part 3.
See ya.
See ya.